The argument ended 3 hours ago, but now, alone in the kitchen, you finally know exactly what you should have said. In your head, the other person returns. This time, they make the same accusation. This time, you do not freeze. You answer calmly, precisely, perfectly. They push back, and you are ready for that too. Then the scene starts again. This is one of the strangest things the mind does after conflict. It rehearses a conversation that can no longer happen, and somehow each improved version can make you feel more prepared without making the original argument feel finished. The first clue is that your mind does not treat every past moment as equally complete. A bus you missed may be over. A cup you dropped may be over. But a social encounter can leave behind unanswered questions. What did they think of me? Did I look weak, unfair, foolish, or dishonest? Was I misunderstood? Could this happen again? The words stopped, but the social problem may still feel open. Psychologists sometimes call this kind of replay post-event processing. The mind continues examining a social situation after it has ended, often in a detailed and self-critical way. But that does not mean the replay is useless from the beginning. Human beings learn by mentally changing the past. You miss a turn and think, I should have taken the earlier exit. You answer a question badly and think, next time I will begin with the main point. This is counterfactual thinking, building an alternative version of what happened. When it identifies something specific and controllable, it can become a plan. The argument replay begins with the same basic promise. Suppose a colleague dismisses your idea in front of other people. During the meeting, you feel heat in your face and say almost nothing. Later, your mind separates the moment into possible causes. Was the idea unclear? Did the colleague misunderstand it? Did you avoid speaking because you were surprised? Each alternative suggests a different future response. Clarify the idea earlier. Ask what they disagree with. Prepare one sentence before the next meeting. This is the constructive side of replay. It narrows a confusing event into something you can influence. Perhaps you should have paused instead of interrupting. Perhaps you needed one clear boundary instead of 10 defensive explanations. Perhaps the next time someone speaks to you that way, you will ask them to be specific. Now, the past has produced usable information. The simulation has done a job. But arguments contain more than decisions. They carry judgment, belonging, fairness, shame, anger, rejection, and the fear of being seen in a way you cannot control. That is why the mind may keep returning even after it has already found a better sentence. Imagine two versions of the same replay. In the first, you identify one action. Next time, I will not answer immediately. I will ask for a minute, then return to the conversation. The scene points beyond itself towards something you can actually do. In the second, you create a devastating comeback. The imagined person looks stunned. Then they produce another insult, so you improve your answer again. The dialogue becomes sharper, but nothing outside it changes. Both versions feel like preparation. Only one has created a testable plan. The difference matters because the mind is especially drawn to alternatives that move upward. The version where you spoke sooner, sounded calmer, or exposed the flaw in the other person's argument. These better versions create a painful contrast with what actually happened. Yet they can also reveal the precise point where a different action might matter. The same thought can therefore sharpen learning and deepen regret. This is where practice can turn into rumination. A real conversation gives you information you do not control. The other person may clarify, apologize, disagree for a reason you never considered, or reveal that they barely remember the moment. Reality can surprise you. An imagined conversation cannot. The other person is being generated by the same mind that is trying to defeat them. Their objections come from your expectations. Their reactions confirm your fears. Even when you win inside a model built from the original wound. So the replay can keep changing its sentences while preserving its conclusion. You were humiliated. You were treated unfairly. You failed to defend yourself. They still do not understand. The mind appears to be exploring, but it may only be rearranging the same emotional evidence. And the body may not fully recognize the difference between examining a threat and being threatened again. The original conflict raised your heart rate, tightened muscles, changed your breathing, and narrowed attention toward danger. Later, when the scene returns vividly, parts of that state can return with it. Repeated social rumination has been linked with slower recovery after stress. The event is no longer happening in the room, yet the body keeps receiving reminders that something remains unresolved. This helps explain why an imaginary victory can leave you exhausted rather than relieved. The replay also changes what is available in memory. Memory is not a recording that you simply reopen. Each time you reconstruct an event, you emphasize some details, ignore others, and connect the scene to your current interpretation. After enough repetitions, the most familiar version may not be the original conversation. It may be the version you have practiced most often, their expression more hostile, your silence more humiliating, your perfect answer more obvious. The mind can feel as if it is investigating the past while quietly editing it. There is another reason the scene is difficult to replace. Emotional information can hold attention. A neutral thought arrives, but the unresolved remark returns. You try to focus on work, and one remembered expression pulls the whole dialogue back into place. That persistence can be mistaken for importance. If the thought keeps returning, it must contain something essential. But repetition is not proof that a problem is being solved. Sometimes it means the mind has not found a way to update what is active. The key difference is not whether you replay the argument. It is what the replay produces. If it produces a specific action, a clearer boundary, a question you can ask, an apology you genuinely intend to make, or a different response you can test, then the simulation has converted the past into guidance. If it only produces more lines, more imagined reactions, and another brief feeling of finally being right, the model is still running without receiving new data. That is the central reason the conflict can feel unfinished. Your mind is trying to turn an uncontrollable social experience into a predictable rule for the future. It wants an answer to more than, what should I have said? It wants to know, what happened to me? What does it mean? And how do I stop it from happening again? A perfect comeback can answer the first question inside your imagination. It cannot answer the others. This also explains why status alone is not enough to describe the replay. Sometimes the feeling is anger, but sometimes it is shame. Sometimes you want to defeat the other person. Sometimes you want to be understood, to repair harm, or to discover whether you were the one who was wrong. The common element is not victory. It is lost predictability. Something socially important happened faster than you could interpret it. Now the mind slows it down, changes the lines, and gives you control over every voice. For a moment, the scene becomes manageable, but total control is exactly what makes the simulation incomplete. Because no other mind is present, nothing can correct your assumptions. The useful question then is not, have I found the best possible response? It is, has this replay produced anything new that can exist outside the replay? A real plan can leave the room with you. A repeated victory cannot. So when the perfect sentence arrives hours too late, it is not simply proof that you are secretly more articulate than you seemed. It is evidence of a mind trying to recover a map after a social moment made the world feel less predictable. The replay becomes useful when it draws a route. It becomes a trap when it only redraws the crash.